Yesterday I wore a tie from a friend of mine who was a World War II veteran. Today I'm wearing one of my late father's ties. Today is the 5th anniversary of my father's death, and so I'm being rather reflectful today. Perhaps oddly, one of the things I am reflecting on is a line from the Black Panther movie in which King T'Challa says to his son, "A man who has not prepared his children for his own death has failed as a father." And I'm so thankful that my father did not fail my sisters or me in that way. He did prepare us in the way he lived his life, in the way that he approached his death, and even in the last few weeks and days before his death. My son David and I went to visit him probably a couple of weeks maybe before he died. We came over, if I remember correctly, on a Friday and spent Friday night with him, had supper with my mother and my father, and then Saturday morning my mother got up and went to the ministry center that her church sponsors and that she is one of the chief movers and shakers in. She went to volunteer there and left David and me at home with my father, and we had breakfast together. And then after breakfast, David and I needed to get on back on the road and head on back. We both had things that we needed to do. And so we packed up and said our goodbyes and went out and got into the car. And then as we got in the car, I realized there were these fast food bags and cups and things in the car left over from the day before when we had driven over and stopped for a quick meal. And so I said to David, "Give me all that stuff, let me take it and throw it away so it's not just going to be rattling around in the car on our trip home." And so I took it inside and put it in the trash can, and then wanted to make sure that Dad knew that it was me in the house and not somebody else. And he was sitting out on their screen porch. And so I walked down on the porch and just said, "Dad, I've just brought some trash in the house and threw it away, and that's what I'm doing back in here." And he looked at me and he said, "Could I pray for you?" And that was pretty unusual. Dad had come to the faith a little late in life, and he was not ever super confident about his ability to pray, particularly publicly, even though I know his private prayers were so powerful. He was worried about things like he didn't want to read scripture, and he didn't really even want to go to Sunday school because he's afraid that people might call on him to find some passage and he wouldn't know how to find it or wouldn't know how to pronounce the names that might be in the passage and all. A little uncomfortable about those kinds of things. So asking to pray for me, particularly because I was the pastor in the family, actually one of the two pastors in the family, had to be a little bit intimidating for him. But nevertheless, he wanted to pray for me. And so he stood up and he took my hands in his hands and he prayed the most beautiful prayer of blessing. He blessed me and my family and my ministry. He prayed for our wider family, and when he finished, I was just overwhelmed. And I said, "Dad, this feels like one of those times in the Old Testament where the father blesses the child," and then that's exactly what it really was. And I never actually, again, had a chance to speak to him. The day that he died, on November 12th, Mom called me and let me know that he was not doing well, and I got in the car and drove over, and we kind of think that maybe he even waited until I got there to completely let go. But I got there and spoke to him, and we were all around his bed as he passed away. But he had done such a marvelous job of blessing me and blessing us in those days. In Genesis 49, as Jacob is coming to the end of a long and tumultuous life, he had stolen the blessing from his father, and then when he had his sons, he so favored Joseph that his other sons, of course, sold Joseph into slavery, and there was all of that trauma. Jacob is coming to the end of his life in Egypt, but he is coming to the end of his life with his sons reconciled and his sons all around him. And so at the very tail end of the 49th chapter of 50 chapters in Genesis, we read, "Then Jacob charged them, his sons, saying to them, 'I'm about to be gathered to my people. Bury me with my ancestors in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, in the cave in the field at Machpelah near Mamre in the land of Canaan, in the field that Abraham bought from Ephron the Hittite as a burial site. There Abraham and his wife Sarah were buried. There Isaac and his wife Rebekah were buried, and there I buried Leah. The field and the cave that is in it was purchased from the Hittites.' When Jacob ended his charge to his sons, he drew up his feet into his bed, breathed his last, and was gathered to his people." And one of the things that I reflect on this day is that indeed we are called to bless other people, not only our children, but we're called to bless all people in the way that we live. We're to help them prepare for our deaths and to prepare for their deaths, and we can do that in the way that we die. And one of the ways I think we do that is making sure that we're a blessing every day, because we just don't know. My father had some advance notice, some advance warning. He was under the care of hospice at the time, but that isn't the case for all of us. And so let me invite you this day to find a way to bless someone, to be a blessing to them this day, and then tomorrow be a blessing to someone, and in the days to follow as well. And we can do all of these things because God is with us.